Welcome to the first ever Lean Body Mind interview. I have with me as a guest today Michael Iban. Did I get that right this time?
Yes, sir.
Okay, awesome. So, Michael has been a longtime subscriber to Serious Keto, and I don't know how long anybody's been a subscriber to Lean Body Mind, but he's here now. And one of the reasons that I invited him is over the course of just exchanging comments on Serious Keto, I've come to learn a little bit about Michael. He's a fairly unique individual in that first, he's carnivore. That doesn't make him super unique, but he's got a lot of experience fasting and endurance running. And I think once you put all of those together, you probably find yourself in probably less than the 1% of all people category. So first of all, what I'd like to ask, the reason that I have Michael on here is I get a lot of questions about exercising during fasting. And I kind of look at Michael as a subject matter expert on that, and he can share some of his experience with us. So thank you so much for joining me today, Michael. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it's a pleasure being here. Thank you for reaching out and thinking of me. I don't know, gosh, if really there's something that you had responded to a viewer's question a while back about exercise during intermittent fasting, and you mentioned that number one, listen to your body. Obviously, that's
Mhm.
that's a no-brainer. And number two, the key component to be able to exercise during fasting is the fat adaptation, which you're fat adapted, I'm fat adapted. And really, the only way to do that would be to eliminate or minimize at least the carbs. There's the keto aspect, and it goes down from there. But if all falls within the ketogenic, the nutritional ketogenic lifestyle, and carnivore being at the most extreme, where we don't intake any glucose at all. And so what I've done over the years was, in the last 3.5 years since being carnivore, was to be able to train my body to be fat adapted. And everyone can research what the various ad, adaptations are, and advantages, if you will, of fat adaptation, especially for an endurance athlete. And so for me, it's running. And on any given day, I'm able to just, like on a Sunday morning, which is my long run, is just pick up my water bottle and go run 18, 20, 22 miles without even thinking about it. I'll break a sweat, but I'll do that because I'm fat adapted, because I know my body and I listen to my body. And so for the viewers, they're probably thinking, this is not possible. Yeah, I get that. I thought it was impossible either about 3.5 years ago when I went from keto to carnivore. And that was the primary reason why I did it, is because I was an endurance athlete and I wanted to train my body to burn fat. And then the challenge after training the body to burn fat was training the body to burn fat faster. Because everyone thinks, okay, well, yeah, you can burn fat, but the fat oxidation rate is much slower than the glucose oxidation state. And that's true up to a point. But after about 4 to 6 months of intense training as a fat adapted athlete, you will train your body to move faster with fat as opposed to glucose, because your body is no longer consuming or burning the glucose. It's burning the fat, which I don't want to get too deep into the technical terms, of course, but the fat adaptation, when you're burning fat, the byproduct is beta hydroxybutyrate, which is your ketone body, which is what your body uses for fuel. That's an endogenous process. And someone will ask, okay, well, what about some functions that require glucose? Yes, there are some functions that require glucose. And there is a demand-driven process in the body called gluconeogenesis, gluco meaning glucose, neo meaning new, genesis meaning create. So your body is creating new glucose as needed, right? You have three macronutrients. You have fat, protein, and carbohydrates. You have essential fatty acids, which is your omega-3s, your omega-6, your omega-7, omega-9. They're called essential fatty acids because your body can't create them itself. So you have to take in your fats, your essential fatty acids exogenously. Proteins, you have 20 amino acids, of which 9 are essential. Right? Your body cannot produce these essential amino acids, so you have to take them in exogenously. Carbohydrates, you can't. There is no such a thing as an essential carbohydrate, because your body will create the glucose it needs to for the functions the minimal bodily functions that require the glucose for burning. But in the absence of glucose, your body will turn to the fat, the beta hydroxybutyrate ketones.
So I want to kind of go backwards a little bit here. We jumped into the science a little faster than I expected, but that's fine. We'll let that be sort of a teaser. What I'd like to do, because I know a lot of my viewers are not, well, they're not anywhere near where you are right now. So I'd like to know a little bit about your history. Which came first? Was it keto? Was it endurance running? Was it fasting? What was the order of events?
Thank you for asking. So my health journey began about early 2002, probably February, March timeframe of 2002. The performance issues, if you know what I'm talking about, right? It's something that men, and that I was 39 at the time, I'm 62 now. And so I went to a urologist and he did the blood tests, and I came back, he showed me the blood test results, and he found that he confirmed the low T score. I think back then it was like 120 something, I don't remember. And I think the normal range is 240 to like 700 milligrams per deciliter of testosterone for men. So the one thing he also noticed was that my prolactin was excessively high. And prolactin is a hormone, typically in women, it's a lactation hormone. So it is what allows women to lactate. And so he was concerned about that high level, and he referred me to an endocrinologist at the UC Davis Medical Center. So I went to see her, and she did another blood panel, and we also did an MRI. The blood panel came back, it confirmed the low testosterone and high prolactin. The prolactin was actually minimizing the test. It was pushing down the testosterone level because the prolactin was so high. So long story short, the result of the MRI confirmed what she feared, is that I had a small tumor in my brain. So it's called a prolactinoma, so the diagnosis was hyperprolactinemic disorder. It's an autoimmune condition, and it's about a 6 millimeter sized tumor, benign, that was lodged between my pituitary and my hypothalamus, where the optic nerves cross. And her concern is that if it grows any larger, that it would affect my vision, specifically around the peripheral vision area. So she sent me to an ophthalmologist, and we did a visual field exam where they stick your head in a vise, and you have this hemispherical screen that everyone's randomly.
Dots, you click the thumb button. Yeah,
you got it. And you had a clicker. Pass for flying colors. So great, my peripheral vision is not being affected. So she put me on a medication called bromocriptine, and long story short, after a few months I didn't like it. I went back to her. She said, okay, let's try cabergoline. Tried that, didn't like it. It was brain fog, nausea, all that stuff. I said, do I have to take, I'm assuming I've lived this long without medication. What's the worst that can happen? She said, well, it could grow, or it could just stay where it is. But at a minimum, come in each year, we'll do visual field, we'll do the MRI, just to confirm. So I did this for 10 years, and nothing happened. Stayed the same size, about 6 millimeters, and my visual field exams will pass. So now it's 2012. I come in for my annual health physical, and it wasn't exactly annual. It'd been like 3 years for my physical. And they put me on the scale, and I weighed 218 pounds. Now you think, okay, well, 218 pounds, that's no big deal. But when you're 5'6", it's kind of a big deal. And so she gave me the whole litany thing, did the blood test, pre-diabetes, et cetera, health risk. And she said, you really need to do something about your health. I said, okay, what do I need to do? Well, certainly you need to make an improvement in your diet, etc. If you don't do this for yourself, do this for your son. So she pulled out the old son card. Do it for your son. I had him kind of late. There's 42 years between him and me, and so I'm sure that he would have liked to have me on a little bit longer. So I took it to heart, and I went home and I cleared everything that had a label out of the pantry and out of the refrigerator. If it's in a bag, a box, a bottle, or a can, I just cleared it out, all the processed foods, all the processed seed oils. And I'm glad that you preached that on your show as well, about the highly processed industrial seed oils. I got rid of those. And that helped a lot. And so I slowly started seeing improvements in my body composition. And then shortly after that, this is now May of 2012, I started walking during my lunch breaks, and I felt strong enough and healthy enough to start walking. After a half hour walking, you're doing this. And walking turned to walking and more walking. And then that was right about the time I needed to upgrade my phone. I had remember the old BlackBerry? I had a BlackBerry at the time, 2012. And so I upgraded to an Android. And now all of a sudden, all of these apps became available. So I'm going through this list of apps, and you have these editor's choices and staff picks. And I found Couch to 5K. So, 99 cents in 9 weeks, running 3 days a week. You'll run 5K. I thought, okay, that's 3-something miles. I can probably do that. So I did it, right? I followed the program. You have this voice prompt on your phone, and okay, now run for 5 minutes. Okay, now walk for 5 minutes. And so as the weeks progress, you're running longer than you're walking. And so in the 5 weeks, I ran that 5K, 3.1 something miles, and I felt pretty good. I said, well, gosh, I've made all this great progress. What do I do now? Well, the next one is the 10K. And it just so happened that that same app developer, Couch to 5K, has an app called 5K to 10K. It basically picks up where the other one left off in 99 cents. And you run for 9 weeks, running 3 days a week. And at the end of that, you're running a 10K. And so I ran that 10K. It wasn't, blazing speed, but I finished it. And so again, I asked, so what's next? Well, then there's the half marathon. Ooh, just the word marathon, which just gave me shudders. But I thought, I've already gone this far. I'm already practically halfway there. So I trained. I found another app for the half marathon. Now we're in December of 2012, and I finished the half marathon. Did it under 2 hours. That was my goal. Smart goals. We'll talk about in your program coming up. And I felt pretty good. And so I was ready to quit right there. And then my sister called me, and she said, hey, I heard you ran a half marathon. Mm-hmm. How would you like to run the LA marathon with me? I said, okay, when is that? In March. Okay. What year? It's like in 3 months. I said, Cindy, I just ran a half marathon. You expect me to run a full marathon in 3 months? She said, you're already halfway there. What's the big deal? Long conversation. She strong-armed me, shamed me, call it what you will. And I said, okay, fine. So I got online and registered for it. And I met her down there. She lives in Arizona. And so we met down there, and I didn't have a pre-qualifying time because it's my first marathon. So they had all this, newbies in the very last, the D wave or corral. And she was on like B or C corral because she had a pre-established time. And so all the corrals go in different waves. And somewhere along the line, I passed her because I finished in 4.5 hours. And she finished like 45 minutes after I did. And she said, how did you pass me? I said, Cindy, there's 50,000 people out there running. There's no way we could have seen each other. So, and she said, 4.5 hours, that's pretty darn good. You should look at what the qualifying standards for Boston. So we did. We looked at it online, and it's 3.5 hours. I said, Cindy, I would have to knock an hour off my time to qualify for Boston. She said, yeah, but all you can do is try. So I tried. That's March of 2013. December of 2013, I signed up for the California National Marathon. Knocked 45 minutes off my time. So now it became real. The next one was the Ventura Marathon. That's the one I used to qualify for Boston, and then qualified for 5 or 6 and ran since then. So that's what started the running journey. During that time,
so if I can interrupt for a second, how many marathons have you run now? And you said you've also done ultra marathons.
So I've run to date 26 marathons, 3 ultra marathons, 50K, which is 31 miles, a 52 miler, which is a double marathon, which is basically a marathon out and a marathon back, and 100K, which is 62 miles. So, Do I have any aspirations of running 100 miles? No. To go from a marathon, which is 26.2, to a 50K, that's only 5 more miles. Okay, that's doable. To go from 50K to 52 miler, that's only 18 more miles. And to go from a 52 miler to a 100K, that's what, another 12 miles, something like that. But to go from a 100K to a 100 mile, that's 38 miles. There's just no way I'm going to have the time or the commitment to run 100 miles. I have other challenges, which we'll talk about. And plus, it requires a team and a support group, and with food, and they have to go to each of the stops, and I don't want to deal with that. So 100K.
So from the time you weighed 218 to the time you ran and had a good time on, well, I don't know that you had a good time in, oh, this feels a great time, but a good time to complete the marathon. How long was that from 218 to the marathon?
Yeah. So the weigh-in was, I said, April. It was actually April Fool's Day of 2012 when she put me on the scale. I thought it was an April Fool's Day joke, and I ran the Ventura Marathon and qualified. That was in May of 2013, the following year. So a little over a year. It was that time that I lost the 85 pounds. Now, I wasn't keto then. I was following all the experts saying, to be an endurance athlete, you have to be a carb dependent. You have to eat like a Kenyan, right? 60 to 70% carbs and 20 to 25% protein, and then the rest is like minimal amount of fat. And so that's what I ate. And so I would like to think there was a combination and the carbs that I ate were the quote unquote healthy carbs, as they say, sweet potatoes, the quinoa, etc. So it wasn't like, a box of Oreos or that kind of thing. So, so I was eating healthy, as they describe it for an endurance athlete. For a runner, was the healthy carbs, the sweet potatoes, like I said, and a lot of sweet potatoes, a lot of quinoa, a lot of amaranth, the grains, and the meat, whatever that may be, beef, chicken, pork. And so that's when I lost all that weight. So now moving forward, I'm running all these races back. So 2019 happened, and I was suffering a lot of injuries. And so 2017, I'm doing some consulting for a company trying to get their ISO certification, and I was in there helping them. And I ran into somebody. We were in the lunchroom, and that's when I was first introduced to keto. We were talking about our nutrition plans, and I had never heard of this ketogenic diet before, and he explained it to me, and yeah, I can't do that. I can't I can't not eat carbs and be an endurance. It's just impossible. You can't. And so that's kind of how we left the conversation. He said, "Oh yeah, I can eat all the bacon and all I want." I said, "Okay, have at it, man." And in my mind, I'm thinking, man, the LDLs, the cholesterol, it can't be that healthy for you. This whole ketogenic thing, the way he explained it. And so I just kind of filed it away and went on with my life, continued with my running. And then 2019, about August of 2019, I started getting some injuries. So you have plantar fasciitis, IT band syndrome, hamstrings, etc. So I took about a year off to rehab all of these recurring repetitive motion injuries. And I was finally released to train again in August of 2020. And along the way, I was eating all these carbs in a year, but not moving. I picked up 40 pounds somewhere along the line of the 85 that I lost. I found 40 of them. And so then I remember the conversation with this guy about this ketogenic diet thing. And I thought, okay, well, let me shed those 40 pounds and I can get back into running. I didn't do that. I just kept running, but I adopted this ketogenic thing that he was talking about. And, the high fat, which scared the heck out of me, because you're not supposed to eat high fat because, according to Ansel Keys and big food and big pharma, if we don't want to put on that path, you got to eat all these. You can't eat saturated fats, okay? And you have to have all these vegetables. So I try to be as clean as possible in the keto thing, and that's when the fasting thing. Homework, looked into the full fasting thing, and did a lot of research on fasting, and that's how I got into the fasting. And as far as the fasting regimen, So 2018, I think, is when Atomic Habits, the book by James Reed, came out.
Yep.
So I used the principles of that book to kind of framework my IF protocol. I was sort of kind of fasting at that time anyway, eating a 12-hour window versus not eating a 12-hour window. And I just learned that if I take it incrementally, step by step, from 12 to 14, 10, and so forth, I got to about 16.8, and that felt comfortable for me. And that's what started to work. Now, you exercise quite often, and so you know about the whole muscle confusion and not the muscle adaptation. And so I adopted the muscle adaptation aspect of it to my fasting regimen or protocol, so that my body didn't get used to a particular, because after a while, 16.8 will even cause you to stall. So now you have to go to 6 and so on, 24. And so what I did was on Mondays, you said you can see me forward, right?
Yes.
So Mondays, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So this is either a complete fast, and Thursday, a complete fast, or 500 calories. Can you see that, or is it too?
Oh, no, I can see it.
Okay. So, or like 500, which is typically like a shake, or a smoothie kind of a thing. And then Tuesday, this is the down day. So then Tuesday and Friday would be 6 to 12 hours of your eating window, minimum of 2 meals. Where here there's no meal, here there's no meal. And then you have 6 to 12 eating window here of 2 meals. And here was my standard 5 hour day, 5 hour day, and 5 hour day on Sunday. That way my body never got it down to whatever fasting. And that really worked for me. I'm not a calorie counter. I don't count my macros. I just eat when I'm hungry, and I stop when I'm full. I eat with the sun, your circadian rhythm. And yeah, that's it. I don't fast anymore officially, or I should say intentionally, because I eat when I'm hungry. Mm-hmm. So typically that'll be, I don't know, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning. I eat about 2 pounds of meat a day, so maybe a pound of meat here. And then when I'm hungry again, around 1, maybe 2, I'll eat another pound of meat, and then I'm done. I don't eat again, and then I run in the afternoon.
So when you first started your fasting regimen in conjunction with running, what was that experience like? Was it when you first started, did you find that you were more fatigued, or what? I mean, because it sounds like you were you were running while doing not the standard American diet, but definitely not keto. You weren't in a place where were going to be fat adapted. So you went keto, and you were still running and doing a little bit of fasting. What was your initial physiological response to that?
Frustrating. I would wake up, I don't feel like running. I'd come home, I don't feel like running. I'd run and I'd quit. I wasn't feeling that energy yet. Then all of a sudden, and it took probably about 4 or 5 weeks, everything just clicked. I don't know if I ever really truly went through the keto flu, as they say, but all of a sudden, boom, I was running faster, because I had eliminated at then all the vegetables, I had eliminated all the carbs, and I was eating just meat. The fat adaptation kicked in, and then all of a sudden I was running, where before I'm going out trying for an easy 8 miles. It's like, okay, I'm done after 6. Now I'm running 8 miles after the light bulb clicked in my head, the mental clarity and all that. And From then on, it was just lights out. I had qualified for the Boston Marathon again, because that's the first thing that people think about, and I think we talked about this earlier, is that you can't be competitive uh, just burning fat. Well, I proved it to myself. That was my goal, was to prove to myself that you can qualify, because that's kind of the gold standard of speed and performance, is qualifying for Boston. And so I did, and run 3 qualifying standards. I'll be running next year in April, my 6th Boston. So pretty excited about that. So to answer
So
your question, Steve, it was painful, and but it took a while to adapt. And once I did, I could tell it was a done deal.
So once things clicked, so let's separate out the in-between period where you were miserable and frustrated. We had the phase where you were running and you were doing a higher carb diet, and then you were running, now doing low to no carb diet. What's the difference in the way you felt between having carbs in your system and not having any carbs in your system? Both the way that you felt physically as you were running, the way you felt mentally and psychologically as you were running, and then also what was the impact on your times?
So impact on times is easy. When I qualified for the 5 previous Bostons, the way the Boston Marathon works is you have a qualifying standard for each age group, both men and women. At that time, I was in my 40s, so I was in the 330 to 340 range for the qualifying standard. And each time I qualified, I would only qualify by maybe 2.5 to 3 minutes, and that it's like fingers crossed that I would qualify, because the way the standard works, they'll take all the people in my age group. Now I'm 62, so the 60 to 64 is 350, 3 hours and 50 minutes. And this is what happened to me last year, or for this marathon, is they had 11,000 more applicants than they expected. So they set a cutoff time at 5 hours and 29 minutes for each of the age groups, for both men and for women. And I'd only qualified by 3:48. So I did not get that invitation from the Boston Athletic Association welcoming you. So I was really mad about that. So the impact on my times was, now the last one I ran in March, I beat it by exactly 5 minutes. And so that was the widest margin that I had ever set a qualifying standard. A qualifying time was 5 minutes. And where before it was only like 3.5 minutes, that kind of thing. So I think that is an improvement for me. Now I'm running another one in August, just to hedge my bets, just in case 5 minutes is not enough. I want to beat it by 10 minutes. So that's my goal for August, is to run a 340, which was the qualifying standard for my previous age group. So I think I've gotten faster now as a fat adapted athlete.
Would you credit being fat adapted with being faster, or is it just that you've got more experience?
Well, I mean, it's age graded, so I definitely have more experience, but you also get slower over time. So I credit everything to 3 men who I followed through this fat adaptation journey as it relates to endurance performance. There's Professor Tim Noakes, South Africa.
Yep.
Professor, you know him, Professor Stephen Finney, right here in Northern California, and Professor Jeff Volek at Ohio State. So those are 3 men who have done groundbreaking studies on endurance performance as it relates to a low to no carb diet. And I just followed their guidelines. I think I've read all their papers, I've watched all their YouTube interviews and presentations, and I use their guidelines. And I would like to credit them. I mean, I kind of did some work by running, but I credit their framework for getting me to where I am. So I feel like I'm a much fitter or more fit runner now than before when I was carb adapted. Plus when I was carb adapted, as you know, Steve, your body has a limited storage for glucose, and the storage form is glycogen. And in a marathon, there's this term called hitting the wall.
Yeah, I was just going to jump in and say that.
Yes, you hit the wall right around, for the average mortal. If you're not Eliud Kipchoge from Kenya, who runs for 2 hours, and then that's all he needs. But for us mortals who don't run 2 hours, you have roughly on the average athlete about 2,000 calories of glucose that you can store. After that, you're done.
Mhm.
And that's when most athletes will hit the wall. Right around mile 18, 19, 20 is when most athletes who are not or fat adapted will hit that wall. When I became fully fat adapted, that 20-mile wall, I was looking forward to mile 23 because I had to actually, during the races, most recently as a fat adapted runner, I would have to actually physically put the brakes on because my body wanted to go faster. I had so much energy in the form of fat. So, but mile 23 was my cutoff to know that I would just cut loose. So I waited for mile 23, and when mile 23 came on, boom, it was sprinting towards the finish line. Can't do that on as a carb dependent. If you're running 3+ hours like I am, mortal athlete. So, yeah, so you can only store so much glycogen in your system, and then you're running for 3 hours and 40, 3 hours and 50 minutes. That stuff's going to expire, and now you're hoping that you're fat adapted enough. No matter how much you carb load throughout the week before the event, or no matter how many chews and gels and whatever that you can carry with you, you're going to run out. And unless you're running really, really slow, like 5 hours, you're going to run out. And
So
it's really
how many marathons, or have you run marathons in an extended fasted state?
well, an extended fast, no, because I've always, where people carb load, I would fat load. So typically my day is about 60. I partner with a local rancher and for a half a share of nose to tail grass-fed, grass-finished beef twice a year. And so that's basically one full cow that I'll eat for an entire year. And roughly it's about 65% fat on these cows and 35% protein. Prior to maybe a week before, I'll up it to like 80-20. I'll add more fat in the form of tallow or extra butter. I only eat the egg yolks. Egg yolks are higher in fat. So I'll just up the fat until, and I listen to my body. You and I talk about this all the time. Listen to your body. When you've eaten too much fat, when it comes out the other end a little looser, perhaps. So that's how I listen to my body. If it's not as loose and maybe too hard, then I know I need to up the fat. So that's how I listen to my body. Because like I said, I don't measure my macros. I just eat until I eat when I'm hungry, and I'm done when I'm full.
So given the little bit of time that we have left, I'd love to hear what, well, first of all, you've provided an example that I think a lot of people, they think, oh, I'm not in the right shape. There's no way I can do this. There's no way I can be like him. And, you've shown you can go from 218 pounds and a big basket of health issues to now being, very fit, very fat adapted, and running. You said you're going to do a 5x5. Can you explain to the viewers what a 5x5 is?
So you and I are goal-oriented individuals, and we use SMART goals. And now that I've proven to myself that yes, I can run faster on fat, and yes, I'm going to run another Boston Marathon. But okay, there's got to be a point where I have to find something else. And at first, I thought of David Goggins, who was the Goggins challenge.
Can't hurt me. And what's that? I got the one back there behind me. Never finished.
Good. I'm glad you know about the Goggins challenge, where every 4 hours you run 4 miles, and you do it for 48 hours. And one gentleman from Australia, he kind of extended that to say, okay, I'm going to run 4 miles every 4 hours, but I'm going to do it for 96 hours. But see, none of this is fasted. They're eating. They're eating, they're sleeping, so they're doing this. I said, well, no, I want to do it fasted. Then I heard about Alex McDonald. So shout out to Alex McDonald, who actually came up with this fasted 5x5 challenge, where in 5 days, you'll run 5 marathons in a row in a fasted state. And I said, that's what I want to do. And so knowing that I had the race coming up in August, I can't do it before then because that would just crush my training. So I'll do it probably after. after that. Maybe about 2 months after that, they'll give me at least an 18-month training window before Boston. So yeah, it's 5 marathons in 5 days. So what I'll do is I'll wear a CGM, because by then in summer, the CGMs will be over the counter, so I don't have to get a prescription. So it's one specific to athletes. I know you've worn CGMs before. I've always wanted to do that. I'll do my ketones. I've got a Keto Mojo now, and I'll have a complete blood panel done to make sure that I didn't do anything to my internals. What's the so fasting glucose, fasting insulin, fasting cortisol, as well as all the panels. So I'll do that prior to the first one, and again after the last one, and I'll do a DEXA. So there's a DEXA fit about an hour away in Sacramento. I'll get the full scan, see where I am. I'll probably up the fat. I'm at 12% right now. I'll get up to about 15, but by then percent, and then I'll use that to carry me for the 5 days, and then I'll do another DEXA afterwards to see how much damage I did in my body. And yeah, that's what this. It's just that I like challenging myself, so that's why I'm doing it.
Well, I'm looking forward to seeing the results. I think that is going to be absolutely fascinating.
Yes, I'll share it with you for sure.
But as we loop back to one of the things I had said earlier, I suspect that not a lot of my viewers, or maybe any of them, have one of their goals being a fasted 5x5. So if you were to, based on your experience, give some advice to my viewers who they're like, well, I'd love to exercise, I'd love to fast. What's the couch to at least fit sort of formula that you would subscribe or prescribe to? Yes. What the typical normal, all right, I started keto, I'm feeling good, I still got some pounds to lose, I need to be more fit, there's so much information out there and a lot of misinformation as well. Give me somebody that's got some experience and tell me what to do. What would your advice be?
I would say do the 30-30-30, which I still do. That's within 30 minutes of waking, you do 30 minutes of zone 1, which is walking. Walk outside for 30 minutes. And then when you're done, 30 minutes of 30 grams of protein. That's it. It's that easy. And you can do that during an extended fast. And well, I wouldn't say the protein one, because that would break the fast.
But you could do OMAD, or you just, I mean, I think the thing is, a lot of people, they look at their eating window as an evening thing. Yeah. Because that's not always are our families on board with us in terms of keto or carnivore or fasting. So that's the least disruptive in a family setting. But I think for those that can swing it, make your eating window when you get up in the morning, or after you've gone out and done a little bit of zone 1 cardio.
Yeah. Or grounding. I think grounding is really, really, people think, I'm just going to stand out there and wait for the sun to come up with my toes touching the ground. Yeah. What's wrong with that? There's something.
I have a grounding mat underneath my desk right now. I'm in bare feet. So
yeah. See, I mean, there's nothing wrong with grounding. Every day I still hang for 2 minutes. I've got my pull-up bar in my garage, and I'll hang for 2 minutes, because you get it works your shoulders, your arms, your grip strength, and your core. So that's something very, very simple. Something you're not going to do it in 2 minutes right away, but work up to it. There are so many things that a person can do who's not used to being physical. Start out with a 30-minute walk. Anybody can walk there. There's no speed associated with that. And just keep it simple. Listen to your body. Listen to your body, because you know what your body can do.
So I have my answer to the next question that I'm going to ask you, and this will probably be the final one based on where we're at on time. But the people that say, I don't have time. I don't have time to do this. Or, well, I'll just leave it at that. I don't have time. My life is too busy. There's only so many hours in the day. What would your response be?
My response would be, I work 50 plus hours a week. I train, I run anywhere from 100K to 100 miles a week. And I have well, my son was young at the time. He's off in school. He's off serving right now. So it's just me. But I'm not big on excuses, and you're not big on excuses either. And if I can do it, I'm a working professional, and I stay active. In addition to the running, I also do the kettlebells and that stuff, the battle ropes, etc. So uh, I'm not big on excuses. I don't think that's valid. You'll find time, and you'll make time. I know you're trying to go. I was going to share something. Can I share my screen really, really quickly? I was going to show you.
Okay, I think so. Do I need to give you some sort of permission to do this?
I don't know. Can you see that?
Not yet. Let's see here.
Oh,
Should be a present now button at the bottom of your screen.
share. Is that
Okay? There we go.
Okay, so there's my testosterone reading July 2nd, about a month or two after I started the keto and the fasting and all that stuff. Let me go to a year and a half later, December testosterone.
Oh,
What does that
wow.
look like to you? 655. I went from 168 to 655 just by fasting. And if you have men, hopefully you have a large audience of men who are suffering from low T. I went from 168 to 655 in less than a year and a half. So I just wanted to share that with your audience, because I'm not making these numbers up. These are lab tests.
Yeah, I guess I would. So my turn to give my answer on
Please.
this. This is why it comes down to having goals and smart goals. So we'll talk about this in a future video, or I will. So specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. But I think even before that, if you've read any of the books by Simon Sinek, you got to start with why. What is your why?
Mhm.
Why are you doing this? If you don't know why you're doing it, then you're not going to have the motivation. You're not going to have the motivation to get up early. And for me, my why is my family and my grandson.
Yep.
My dad died when he was 56. I'm 56.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
He was not able to meet his grandson. And to me, that's my biggest motivator. I start every day. I know some people think affirmations are goofy, but to me, it's a reminder of what my purpose is today.
Yeah.
And it is to be the best husband, father, grandfather, and role model I can be. That is my why. That's why I do this. And when you have a strong enough why, you can get your butt out of bed, and you can make more hours in the day. Additionally, I find the earlier I get up, the better I sleep at night. So I'm getting deeper, more restful sleep. And now I wake up at 4:30, between 4:30 and 5, without an alarm clock. I wake up and I don't say, "Where's the snooze button?" I say, "All right, I'm up. Let's go get it. Let's go after this day." And it's kind of like the people that, how do you have the energy to exercise? Well, you exercise. You start exercising without the energy, and eventually the energy comes and it feeds itself. And I think when you have a strong enough goal, it feeds itself. The motivation, the burning desire gets you there. And so that's for those people that say they don't have enough time. Hey, listen, I was a fat piece of crap and out of shape, and I felt the best thing I could do for my family was die early and make sure I die at work so that insurance pays out double. And I think what I've accomplished, and the husband, father, grandfather, and role model that I have transitioned to from that person to now is a better version of me, and it's better for my family.
That's awesome.
So
I had my why. It was my son at the time. So that was my you mentioned burning desire. The other acronym to a SMART goal is dream, right? What is your dream? Well, desire, requirements, that's your goal. Effort has to be 100%. Attitude, that burn desire, and make it happen. Those are the other 4 acronyms that I use to accomplish whatever smart goal that you have to want it, you have to taste it. That's your desire, and it goes and just kind of cascades from there. So
So I hope that my viewers, they can look at you, they can look at me, and they can see a couple of guys that we weren't anything special. We weren't blessed with some sort of amazing genetics. We were in bad health, yet we took control of our lives.
Mhm.
And as part of that, and you've said it, I've said it, you do need, though, to make sure you're listening to your body. It's good to journal. It's good to track what you're, at least initially, track what you're putting in your head hole, track your electrolytes, track, your fat grams and carb grams, until you get to a point where you're like where both you and I are, which is I don't track anything. I don't track calories. I don't track macronutrients. I eat until I'm satisfied. I don't actually generally eat till I'm full, because I don't like that sensation.
Yeah.
I eat until I'm satisfied, and then I'm done.
Yeah.
So
No, you're spot on. It becomes intuitive. Track it, and in the beginning, let's say a month or two, track your macros, track your electrolytes. Eventually, it's going to become intuitive, and that's what you've done. That's what I've done, and I think it's really important. It's too much time to count all this stuff.
yeah.
I don't have time for it. I prefer it to be intuitive, like you and I are doing now. So.
Well, we've been here almost an hour. I don't know what it's been great. The time flew by. Hopefully it flew by for our viewers as well. So once again, I do appreciate you taking the time to spend a little bit of time with us, to share your story, to share your journey, and to share some of your advice. So thank you very much, Michael.
If you and I can do it, anybody can do it. I mean, I'm just this old 62-year-old guy who just likes to be active and is an adrenaline junkie and likes to eat.
All right.
It was a pleasure.
All right. Great.
Take care. Cheers.